The Invention of Shoes by Rabindranath Tagore. Once upon a time, there was a king called Hobu. One morning, he summoned his minister and said, "Listen, Gobu Rai, I stayed up all night thinking, why should the dust dirty my royal feet whenever I step on the ground? All you people, you are only concerned with pocketing your fat salaries. You have no concern for the king or the kingdom or the problems that bother me. You must put an end to this at once, or else no one shall be spared from my royal wrath." Gobu Rai wondered and worried. He pondered and perspired. The pundits' faces turned pale. The courtiers' nights turned sleepless. In the kitchen, the cooking stopped. In the castle, the crying started. Gobu Rai looked far and wide and gathered all the scientists and learned men, all the scholars and mechanics he could find. They pushed their glasses up their noses and sat down to find a solution to the royal problem. After thinking long and deep, they said, "If you do away with the soil, how will you grow crops?" The king replied, "If you cannot figure out how, then of what use are you?" More. And then they made a purchase of 17,50,000 brooms. Workers were summoned. The dusting of the kingdom commenced. The dust covered the king's face and chest. No one could open their eyes because of the dust. No one could see the sun. People coughed and choked. The kingdom was almost buried under the dust. The king said, "You were supposed to get rid of the dust, not fill the world with it." Then 21 lakh water carriers set out with bags of water. They ran fast and they ran all over, pouring water wherever they saw a speck of dust. All the ponds and lakes were soon overflowing with mud. No boat could move on the river. Since there was no water, the water creatures perished. The land creatures tried their hand at swimming. They could hardly walk or run on the mud. No bazaar could be set up, so trading stopped. All the king's subjects sneezed and coughed and sniffed and suffered. The king said, "What a lot of fools! They got rid of the dust only to replace it with mud." Once again, everyone gathered to solve the royal problem. Once again, the great men and their assistants racked their great brains. They thought and then thought harder. But they were baffled and blank. They were at a loss to know how to lose the dust. Someone said, "Cover the earth with mats. Rugs and carpets shall stop the dust from touching the royal feet." Someone else suggested, "Keep the king indoors. See to it that there's no hole or loophole anywhere. If he does not step on dust, no dust shall touch his royal feet." The king said, "Very true, but I am worried. If I were to stay shut up indoors every day, all day, then the royal machinery shall come to a stop. My kingdom shall be ruined." Then, taking matters into his own hands, the king announced, "Call the tanners. all of them. Wrap the whole land in leather. This shall be my great contribution, a mighty blanket for the dusty earth. Everyone bowed to the king. "What a brilliant idea, Your Royal Highness," they said. "It is only a question of finding a tanner good enough." The royal emissaries set off in every which way. Everyone stopped what they were doing and rushed out to look for a tanner good enough. Where could they find such a tanner? And where could they find so much leather? At last, the chief tanner of the kingdom presented himself at the royal court. He was an old man. He bowed to the king, smiled a little, and said, "If your Royal Highness permits, I have a suggestion to make. It might fulfill your wish in a simple, yet effective way." "You may make your suggestion," said the king. "Cover your royal feet, Your Royal Highness," said the old tanner. "Then you shall not have to cover the whole earth." "If it was all that easy to solve the problem," said the king, "would everyone in the kingdom have lost their sleep over it? "Arrest the fellow," said Goburai, "and throw him into jail." But already the old tanner was deep at work. Sitting down at the king's feet, he had been measuring and cutting, stitching and fitting. Before the king could decide whether to throw him into jail or to forgive him, he had finished a neat pair of shoes and presented it to His Royal Highness. King Hobu put on the shoes. They fit him perfectly. His royal feet felt warm and snug and, most importantly, clean. The minister spared the old tanner. He said, "I had the same idea myself. Some way or the other, the fellow must have got hold of my idea." And so, from that day, began the use of shoes. The royal feet were saved. So was Gobu. And so was the earth.